Just a moment.
Oh, wait. I just started. We're live. We're live. It's okay. So
Okay. All right.
this is George Stolfi from the University of Campinas in Brazil, and you're a computer science professor. So thank you for joining me. And you're going to explain to me about why investing in cryptocurrencies is a financial scam.
Well, thanks for the invitation to the debate. Basically, the reason is that Bitcoin does, unlike, well, let's say, a good investment is an investment is something that, while you are holding it, actually creates new wealth, and that wealth comes back to you because you're holding it. So that's what happens with when you buy stock from a company. The company makes products, sells products to consumers. The consumers give money to the company, and some of that money comes back to the investors. And so, in due time, the investors get back more money than they put into it. Bitcoin doesn't have any such mechanism. If you invest in Bitcoin, you cannot. There is nothing that will give you money, make money somewhere, and give you that money back to you. Your only hope of making a profit out of investing in Bitcoin is selling it to another investor. So you're just passing around this loss. Meaning you lose money when you buy Bitcoin, then you get back money when you sell it. But when you sell it, someone else has to buy it, so that guy has to lose money. So you're just transferring money between investors, not actually getting money. And then there is uh, part of that money. When you buy, you can buy from a miner, and then the money goes to the miners and never comes back to the investors. So investing in Bitcoin is a negative sum game, whereas investing in a company is supposed to be a positive sum game. The money that investors get back is more than what they put in. Whereas in Bitcoin, the money that investors put into Bitcoin is always more than what they get back.
Okay, so but you're specifically saying that investing in cryptocurrencies is a financial scam.
Well,
So,
it is a scam because people who are convinced to invest in Bitcoin, they are not told that. They are not aware of that.
so you
They are
think
not aware that there is a fundamental difference between investing in Bitcoin and investing in stocks or investing in bonds or
so
treasury.
you think that people believe that they do get a dividend when they buy Bitcoins?
No, they don't. They are not aware of the fact that the reason why investing in stocks is a good investment, it's because there are dividends that come back in one way or another.
Okay,
Whether
but
through dividends or through buybacks by the company or other ways of returning. But there is money that the things that they are investing in actually makes money, and that money comes back to investors.
okay, so if I were to sell Bitcoin to somebody and he didn't know the difference between a stock and a currency, that would make Bitcoin a scam.
Yes,
But
uh,
if he
but
did know, then it wouldn't be a scam, right?
well, if he doesn't know what those words mean, uh, it's still a scam, right?
Well, yeah, but if he knows that he's not getting dividends for Bitcoin, then it's not a scam, right?
Yeah, but that you are saying that, well, the guy must know that he's not investing, he's gambling, because financially, investing in Bitcoin is just like investing into a lottery. You put, well, lots the investors put $1 million in, and they get $400,000 back. Some of them may get all the $4,000 for themselves, so they may make a big profit, but at the expense of the losses of other people. So there are people who like gambling, and well, I mean, I think that people have the right to do whatever they want with their money, even burning it or gambling it, but they must know that what they are doing is gambling, not investing.
Okay, but if I am selling something, it's not really like if I'm selling. I mean, is it my responsibility to? Yeah, I would say that it is the buyer's responsibility to understand what he is buying. So if I don't know what another person knows if I'm selling Bitcoin, right? And if I'm selling, I think it's going. There's inherently a difference in opinion, right? Because if I'm selling, that means I probably think it's going to go down. But if he's buying, that means he thinks it's going to go up. So we have different ideas about Bitcoin when the trade happens, or about anything. So
Yeah, but it's both of you are betting on are gambling, not investing.
okay, so you're
Because I mean, you are betting on that magic number, which is the Bitcoin price, that is going up, and that he will be able. He's betting that it will go up, and he will be able to sell by the higher price before it goes down. But
right.
like in any gambling game, I mean, the investors as a whole will lose money. In the case of Bitcoin, they lose $10 million every day, at least. That's what goes to the miners. Then there is what goes to the exchanges, which is maybe even more than that. And that money doesn't come back to investors. I mean, so it is just a bleeding of money from the investors, while the investors keep throwing money from one to the other, hoping that in the end, in this musical chairs game, they will uh, end up with a profit.
Okay, but I mean, does that? I mean, if we both agree that we are gambling, does
Yeah.
that still make it a scam if one person sells Bitcoin to another?
No, then it is. Then you are. If you know that you are gambling and you know what exactly the game is, uh, then you are gambling. It's not a scam. Gambling is not a scam, but it is a most. If you try to present Bitcoin as investment, that's a scam
Oh, so
because
okay,
investment is not gambling. I mean, no
okay.
one says that buying lottery tickets is an investment.
So but would you say that it is not an investment to hold some other currency that's not a crypto, like dollars? Is it a scam if I was selling dollars?
uh, Depends on why people are buying the dollars. I mean, sometimes you need to buy dollars because you are moving to another country where they only accept dollars and not your currency. That, of course, is not investing nor gambling. It's just exchanging money to a form that is useful. Uh,
Well, but while I hold the money, it can go up or down. Maybe not as much as Bitcoin does,
well,
but
if you are buying money to do forex trading, to expecting to make money out of forex trading, that's gambling.
yeah.
Because again, okay, someone who sells you the money, the foreign currency, is betting that it will go down, and you are buying it, are betting that it will go up. But uh, one of your, I mean, any profit that you make will be a loss to the other guy or something like that. So,
Okay, well, I mean, I don't really have anything to disagree with you on anything. So I don't know. Do you have any more controversial opinions about Bitcoin?
well, I listed those five controversial opinions, right? I think number one was that Bitcoin will never be a viable payment system for legal payments. Uh, Number three was, what was it? I don't know, I have to find the tweet. But there was blockchain technology is just snake oil.
Okay, well, that's kind of vague. Why I mean, what do you think is, uh, wrong with it?
Well, I mean, people. when Satoshi invented the blockchain, I mean, he wasn't trying to make a database or a ledger that was better than ledgers that existed before. His goal was to make a decentralized payment system. And there are plenty of ledger technologies that distributed ledger technologies, mirrored safety, everything that worked fine until then. There was the only thing that they were not were decentralized in the sense that all of those depended on a central authority. So he decided, well, let's see if I can make this payment system that is decentralized. It doesn't have a central authority. So he put an extra constraint into the problem. And of course, when you put more constraints, the solution that you get is worse than what you get when you cannot be better than when you don't have that constraint. And in that case, I mean, in order to make the payment system decentralized, he had to actually pay a very high price. He had to use the most inefficient data structure that exists, which is just a linear list of all the transactions that have been accepted by the system. So that's a terrible data structure. The only reason why he chose it is that it was the only data structure that he could get to be updated by anonymous and coordinated set of miners. With this complicated majority of work voting scheme, where everybody tries to update the data structure, and there may have several versions, and then there is a way to figure out which one has the most hash power on it, and then everybody chooses that, and therefore all the miners also choose that because they know that everybody will choose it. So it is a very complicated method to do what a centralized payment system does. And the only thing that the blockchain gives you is that it is sort of decentralized. Well, that was his hope, but in fact, turns out that it is not, because he didn't know at the time, but his reward system is such that makes the mining become centralized. And once mining becomes centralized into half a dozen known miners, then the decentralization is lost. I mean, okay.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it seems like you understand Bitcoin really well. I wish people in Bitcoin knew a lot of this stuff a little bit better. Okay, so let's see. Well, okay, I mean, smart contracts are useless. Okay, well, so you gave me a bunch of topics. So I'm looking over them. So we just talked about number 2, investing in cryptocurrencies is a financial scam. And so we both agreed that it's gambling. But if we both think it's gambling, then it's not a scam, right?
Yeah, as long as the person who buys Bitcoin knows that he's gambling, not investing, that's fine.
Okay, blockchain technology is snake oil, and yeah, I mostly agree with that. I mean, I don't think there's anything any good other than Bitcoin. Smart contracts are useless, so yeah, I agree with that one. Number 3, cryptos inherently violate KYC AML, so I don't want to bother with that one. That sounds dull. So, cryptos are not viable payment systems for legal uses. So that's number 1. Why don't we talk about that?
Well, it goes with what I was saying before, that once you have decided that your payment system is decentralized, you're paying a very high cost in all aspects: speed, computing cost, efficiency, reliability, and everything else. So convenience, turnaround time. That's what happens with Bitcoin. You can improve some of those things, maybe by making blocks, for instance, happen every 5 seconds or every second instead of every 10 minutes. That would resolve some of the problems of speed. But then you still have all the problems of, I mean, it's a very complicated, very heavy, very resource intensive system to do something that centralized payment systems do at a very, very, very low cost per transaction. So, I mean, it is very hard to think of a legal situation, a legal payment that is better off using cryptocurrencies rather than any of the existing centralized payment systems like Visa, PayPal, Alipay, Apple Pay, M-Pesa, and so on. I mean, so why would someone want a decentralized payment system just to buy something from Amazon? I mean, there is a small chance that maybe some evil, the criminal U.S. government will steal your money while the payment is going through. But I mean, that will not convince anyone to use Bitcoin instead of PayPal or Visa.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that it's not about what the sender wants to use. I think it's more about what the receiver wants to receive. So I think somebody would use a Bitcoin payment if the person selling wanted Bitcoins and didn't want dollars.
Yeah, but why would a merchant make that choice?
I mean, well, so do you agree that the total supply of Bitcoins is fixed?
No, because well, it is that's a property of the software that people are using to process the blockchain. If you change that software, you can increase the number of Bitcoins to an arbitrary number.
Well, yeah, but I mean, do you think anybody would really do that? Because I would say that nobody has the incentive to try that, because if they made a block that did that, it wouldn't be accepted by the rest of the miners.
Well, a single miner cannot do that. But if you have, say, 5 or 6 pools in China, the largest pools in China, if they get together, they have 70% of the hashing power. And then they can say, look, I mean, the situation is very tragic. Bitcoin is about to die unless we increase the reward to double every 4 years instead of halving every 4 years. Well, we have decided that that's necessary to save a Bitcoin. And so here is a new version of the software that you have to download. If you don't download it, the chain that you are using now with the software that you have now will not stop working, because we will block that chain. With 70% of the hash power, they can do that. And there will be another chain that you can use with this new software that will continue working as usual. I mean, you will not notice any difference. The only thing is that in 4 years' time, instead of having the rewards will double.
Well, but people would have an incentive to pay attention to that happening, because if they were holding Bitcoins and there was some new information that potentially changed the future of Bitcoins, they would want to react to that now. Since we agreed it is gambling, it is a prediction about the future. People would have an incentive to think about the future consequences now, if people were to try something like that. So then they might want to choose to still follow the original rules, even if the hash rate on the original rules wasn't as high initially. But I would argue that a if there was a chain split, the chain that kept the amount of Bitcoins constant would be the more valuable chain. So miners would eventually have to move to that.
If you have 70, if a cartel of miners has 70% of the hashing power, they can put 35% to mine the old chain and 35% to mine the new chain. And then the other miners have only 30%. They will lose. So the cartel can mine only empty blocks in the old chain, which means that users who insist in using the old chain will just be unable to do anything with their Bitcoins. And they will only be able to use their Bitcoins if they switch to the new chain.
Well, no, because we're assuming that you said 70% of the network is trying to increase the supply, right? So that's 30% left that is not trying to increase the supply, right? So people could use the chain that is being mined by the 30%.
Well, but there will be 35% mining that same chain with the same rules, but mining only empty blocks. So everybody who is still using the old software will pick the chain that's the empty block chain of empty blocks that's mined by the cartel.
Why would there be empty blocks?
Well, because the cartel wants to stop the old chain.
So the cartel is mining on the old chain rather than the new one?
It has 70% of the hashing power, so it puts half of that mining the old chain, only empty blocks on the old chain, and half of that mining the new chain.
Well, every time a block is produced,
the 30% miners who are not in the cartel, they will try to make a block that has transactions normally, but the users that are running the old software, they will see blocks that have transactions and blocks that are empty, but there will be the blocks that are empty will orphan all those blocks that have transactions. So the users will follow the chain of empty blocks. They could, do something to ignore those empty blocks and stay with the non-empty blocks, but they will have to download new software anyway. So they will have to fork the chain anyway. They make another fork.
Okay, so
miners go into that fork too and sabotage that fork too. Basically, if the cartels have a majority, 70% of anyone who has 70% of the hashing power can force a hard fork the way he likes.
Okay, but so do you agree that miners have a more immediate need to be profitable than investors do?
Definitely.
Okay, so if miners were increasing the supply and attempting to require everybody to go along with that, that would be there would be an immediate reaction in Bitcoin's price, don't you think?
There may be a small reaction, but if you watch it, how the Bitcoin price reacts to events, you will see that apparently it's not determined by rational traders. They are not people who are looking at Bitcoin and making a cold assessment of what Bitcoin price will be in the future, because there is no way to do that. It's just it depends entirely on the mood of traders and holders.
Right, but what I'm saying is the miners have a more immediate need to turn a profit. So in the short term, they have to react to Bitcoin's price more than investors do, because investors can withstand a low price for a long time more easily.
Uh, the, I mean, how long is short?
Well,
Short.
I don't know. I'm not. My
A
argument
month.
doesn't.
Let's say whatever. So in a month, I guess that the effects of a radical change in the way Bitcoin works will be uh, um, forgotten.
But I'm saying that if the miners try to do something that's harmful to Bitcoin, they're going to be the ones who are hurt first before the investors are. Do you agree with
Uh,
that?
well, at the current time, in the current conditions, it is not in the interest of miners to do that. But let's say that the price of Bitcoin drops to $2,000. Then most of the miners who are out there, they will have lots of equipment that they have invested in, and they cannot use because the cost of if they use all the same hash power, their costs will be much more than what they recover. So they have either they drop out of business and take the loss, or they try to do that thing, change the rules so that they get more reward.
Well, what I'm saying is that the price would go down because they changed the rules, right?
Well, it may go
So,
down. Let's say it goes. Say they have to do the. Suppose that they propose to double the price is $3,000, and they propose to change the rules, and the price drops to the 1,500. Then well, if the rules say that they will get 4 times as much reward, they will be back to $6,000 to the same reward as they are now.
well, I mean, if
So
they try to do it again, then the price will go down again.
well, yeah, of course, it's not something that they can do all the time. Maybe, although I mean, you see people uh, in other coins that don't care at all about what the developers are doing, generating bazillion coins at all, and they still invest in them. So
Okay, but miners, if miners try a trick like that, they get hurt first before the investors do because they have a more immediate need to be profitable.
yeah, but if they do I mean, depending on exactly what are the numbers. I mean, how much they increase the reward and how much that causes the price of Bitcoin to fall, it may be profitable for them to do that.
Well, so you're saying that if the miners increased the block reward, that they could make more money doing that to counteract the amount that the price went down in reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it will not be an auto. I mean, it's not obvious that it will be a good move, but they will have to I mean, test the market and see how much that would affect the price and decide how much they will have to increase the reward and whether that will pay off or not. It's not something that is out of question automatically. It may be profitable for them or may not.
Right, but if it was,
Well,
well, I mean, I think that why would it be profitable?
well, because first of all, if they play their PR right, they may even increase the price of Bitcoin by doing that. Because if they say, look, I mean, if we don't increase the rewards, the hash rate will go down, and that will be terrible because I mean, everybody will see that Bitcoin is falling apart. So the price will go down. So let us increase the reward, then the hash rate will continue to go up. And that will, I mean, everybody will see that Bitcoin is good and well and working. Well, okay, there will be way down in the future, that will be more than 21 million Bitcoins. There may be 100 million Bitcoins. But hey, I mean, do you care about what happens 50 years down the road?
Well, but we're just talking about gambling. So in
Yeah.
buying Bitcoin is always a prediction about the future. So the people who are thinking that far down the road would be selling. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but you see that it's a prediction with no rational basis. Because
Why doesn't it have a rational basis?
Well, because why did the price drop from what was it, $1,200 to 250 during 2015? I mean, did anyone foresee that? When the price went down to 215, 250, did people foresee that it will be 20,000 last December?
Well, well, the reason prices change is that people do new things. So if you want to predict prices, that means you have to know what other people are going to do. So it's inherently not easy to predict the price because
Yeah,
you don't know what other people are thinking. But
I mean,
in the case that we were talking about, in the case of miners attempting to increase the supply, one thing that I could reasonably conclude is that at least the most intelligent people would be leaving Bitcoin. So maybe the price wouldn't react immediately, but I think that you could predict that the average intelligence of Bitcoin would go down in the event of miners increasing the supply. Do you agree with
well,
that?
um, um, sort of. I mean, there may be a few people who still think that Bitcoin is valuable because there are only 21 million. And if there were 100 million, then it would be much less valuable. I don't think that 90, I mean, I think that 99% of the people who invest in Bitcoin don't do that reasoning. They may use that as a talking point or something like that, but that's not what they are planning. They are not planning for the future 100 years from now when there will be 21 billion bitcoins or 100 million bitcoins. They are planning for next month.
Okay, but we both agreed that Bitcoin, if you buy Bitcoin, that's gambling. So
Yeah,
why do you think they're not thinking? Because people have a good reason to think, don't they? Because
well, because
they have to gamble correctly.
look at how the price evolved since 2013. I mean, what uh, rational argument could there have been to explain why the price went down to 250, then went up to 20,000, and now it's back to 6,500.
Well, I mean, I don't
Nothing
think there's
intelligent in Bitcoin.
but I don't think there's much of a reason to try to explain past price movements. Okay,
Well,
I think
okay, but
you need to predict what other people are going to do in the future.
yeah, right. But you see, the prediction that there will be only 21 million bitcoins was the same throughout the history of Bitcoin. And yet the price went up and down, I mean, amazingly up and
Well,
amazingly down, in spite of everybody knowing that there will be only 21 million. So the 21 million cannot be a big factor in explaining the price of Bitcoin.
right, but I'm not trying to explain the price. I'm telling you what other people have to think about. Right. So I'm saying if miners did try to increase the supply, what that would mean is that the most intelligent people who were thinking about the consequences would leave Bitcoin because they would be predicting that Bitcoin wasn't going to work in the future.
Well, the most intelligent people are now running mining pools and exchanges. I think those are the ones that make money almost guaranteed, no matter whether the price goes up and down. Miners are a bit less, but still, I mean, they are making $10 million every day.
Okay, but as I pointed out, miners have a more immediate need to be profitable. So there is an advantage to being a miner, but there's also a disadvantage because you're closer to reality if you're a miner. So you have a lot more to react to.
Okay, but again, the price doesn't react to technical arguments. See, I mean, you saw what happened to Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. I mean,
Okay, wait a minute. So, but if the most intelligent people leave Bitcoin, which is what I say would happen if the miners tried to increase the supply,
uh,
eventually the remaining people would have to react to the real fact that the other people around them are less intelligent. Eventually they would have to react to that in some way, right?
I mean, I don't know if there are intelligent Bitcoin investors. I mean, there are people who think that they can outsmart other investors by holding until the price goes up and selling when it is high enough.
Well, necessarily there's a differential. Necessarily there's a range of intelligences, right? I mean, it's not like all investors have the same intelligence. There'd be some kind of there would be a distribution of
No,
intelligences.
look, I mean, we're not talking about investors, we're talking about gamblers, right? So there may be more intelligent gamblers and less intelligent gamblers. And I don't know what an intelligent gambler is, if it is one that is betting for the price of Bitcoin 10 years from now, or one who is betting on the price of Bitcoin tomorrow. I mean, I don't know which one of the two will be the most intelligent gambler.
Well, I would say that intelligence inherently means being able to predict farther into the future. So,
okay, but I mean, if you are at a table at Las Vegas, there is, no matter how intelligent you are, and I mean, you cannot predict what the little ball will, where the little ball will land.
sure, but with Bitcoin, it's not about predicting a little ball. It's about predicting what the other people in the world are going to do. So it's not random. It's about predicting other people.
Yeah, but so that's maybe, I mean, it's maybe more like poker than roulette. That people, the smartest players are the players who can outsmart the other gamblers and trick the other gamblers into making bad moves.
Yeah, so I agree with that. I think that I that's what I tell people who get into Bitcoin. I tell them Bitcoin is a big poker game. So yeah, I think that's an important thing to understand to get when you get into Bitcoin. But yeah, I think poker is a good analogy for Bitcoin.
Yeah, but say, how can you be sure that you are more intelligent than your adversary in poker?
Well, you can't. The market is anti-inductive. So no matter how smart you are, when you go into the market, you're always up against people of a similar level of intelligence. So it's a game that adjusts its difficulty to whatever your intelligence is.
Okay, well, I mean, if you go into if you buy Bitcoin in order to gamble on the price, that's, well, I mean, I cannot have anything to say against that. And I'm worried about millions of people who are not gambling. They think that they are investing. And they are told that, look, the price went up a lot, so invest now because the fear of missing out. Well, that's exactly what penny stock scams are about. Scammer buys a penny stock that's worthless, there's nothing behind it, pumps the price up, and then tells people, look, the price went up 10 times. Buy now or you miss out. That's a good investment. That's a scam. It gives jail time if you do it with stocks. But of course, Bitcoin is not considered stocks, so no one cares. But
So
the
what do
problem
you
is that,
think would be the best way to teach people in Bitcoin that they are actually playing a poker game? Because this is something that I have had a lot of difficulty with as well. Because I agree, most people in Bitcoin are ignorant of basic things about gambling in it. So, what do you think would be the best way to teach people more about teach people in Bitcoin more about being a poker player? Like, how do you think I could get the word out about that?
well, the first thing is tell people that there is no money coming back to investors. The investor only, as a whole, they will only lose money, and money will go shuffle between them. Some of them may get lucky or smart and get a big profit, but only at the cost of losses of other investors. On the
I mean,
average,
do you
Bitcoin investor will lose money. That's a mathematical fact. That's lost money so far. They will lose money in the future, and the longer the game lasts, the more money they will lose.
well, I mean, but people like it's the same with dollars, right? Like people don't think that they're getting dividends when they hold dollars, right?
Yeah, but no one invests in dollars. I mean, at least no one is smart enough to know what investment is. They may hold the dollars just as a temporary measure between their salary when they get their salary and during the month they will spend it in groceries and so forth. But no one will put dollars in their mattress because they know that it will only lose a little bit, 5%, 2% per year, but it will lose money. So there are other ways of investing your money that
Oh,
you're left over
okay, oh
rather
no,
than
I'm
just
I'm sorry,
keeping
but
dollars.
I really disagree with what you're saying because I think that a portfolio needs to have some cash in it. So I think that people do need to invest in cash. So I'm not talking about Bitcoins now. I'm talking about whatever is used as money in a society, people do need to invest in that. That's
Well, I mean, anything that any investment has a component of risk, and some investments have smaller risk, and some have smaller risks, bigger risks, smaller expected returns, bigger expected returns. And dollars are dollars in your bank account are something that has very low risk because it is insured by FDIC and everything else. But it doesn't gain you anything. It loses 2% per year.
okay. No, I disagree with that. Dollars do gain you something, and like if you correctly predict a stock market crash, then then you need to get dollars, right? So
No, but you
what
don't get,
what
I mean, when the stock market crashes, you don't get, if you are holding dollars, you don't get richer. You get
what but you
poorer,
do because
2%
then
per
you
year.
get to buy the
You lose
stocks.
less.
No, you get to buy you get to buy the stocks when they're cheap. That's what you get if you have dollars. See, so you do get richer because you're the person who gets to buy the cheap stocks.
But I mean, you're gambling that those stocks will go up in the future.
Sure.
Uh,
But it's but
well, that
people do
didn't
that all the
happen.
time. That's that but I'm saying that that's
Just,
normal. That's normal, right? So you're not saying, do you think people shouldn't buy dollars?
but
Because
you mean you
this is
can
the same
see
thing.
if there is a stock crash and you buy stocks and then the stock crash even more and you are forced to sell because you need to pay your some things.
Right,
Uh,
but my point is that the reason you hold cash in your portfolio is that you get to buy something first. And there are always mistakes in the economy, right? There's always people making mistakes. So if you're the one with dollars, you get to buy the cheap stuff. That's and it happens randomly, right? But that's what you get from holding dollars, and that's why you need to have dollars in your portfolio. You benefit from randomness, basically.
well, you could borrow dollars and buy stocks if you if you don't have dollars in your portfolio, right?
Well, yeah, but if you do have dollars, you don't have to borrow them. It's much. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a lot better to have them already.
when we are discussing fine points of strategy, but I mean, buying and selling
But
stocks,
you have to
expecting.
understand. You have to understand this kind of stuff when you get into Bitcoin. This is not a this is not a fine point of strategy if you are in Bitcoin. This is
No,
this
I
is
think
very
that,
important information.
yes, I think that you should keep all your money out of crypto, right?
Yeah.
Because it is a losing lottery.
So do you think that the price of Bitcoin, I mean, do you think that it's going to zero in terms of dollars
It
or
doesn't matter much. I mean, it will eventually go to zero because sooner or later there will be even better cryptocurrencies if cryptocurrencies succeed, or there will be no interest in cryptocurrencies if no one can make them work. So the price of Bitcoin may go to zero eventually, but that's not the reason that makes investing in Bitcoin a bad investment. It is the fact that people, every time you invest in Bitcoins, you're giving some money, you're putting some money into the game, and your expectation of getting money out is less than what you put in.
well, I mean,
Because apart
why is it less? Because I
because
would say
apart
that wait a minute. I would say that it's not less because you could like I would say that you can continue to expect more people to get into Bitcoin. So I don't think that it's less.
So you're saying it's like a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, where the new investors uh, take losses to pay profits for the earlier investors. But then eventually the thing will run out, and the last guys who invest, the last batch of people who invest in Bitcoin will have to lose. I mean,
Okay, but so the difference is that I think that so in a pyramid scheme, the early investors eventually get out, right? And that's the problem with it is that
well, if they get out.
right, but the if you are running a pyramid scheme correctly, the idea is that you get out, you create it first, and then you get out first, right?
Um, if you are a smart scammer, yes,
So, but what
you
I
keep an
think,
eye of when you notice that the new members are beginning to drop, and then you get out.
right,
Uh,
but what I think is in Bitcoin is that the early investors in Bitcoin have a reason never to get out. So I think that it is like a pyramid scheme, except that the early investors won't get out. Everybody will just get in.
in a pyramid scheme too. I mean, the longer the pyramid goes goes on, the longer you keep your money there. That's happened with Madoff's Ponzi scheme, right? I mean,
Sure, but the
people
point,
were looking on paper. Wow, I got 10%
no, but see, but the point
profit
is
this
that
month. I
in
will
a
keep my
pyramid,
money there.
no, in
I will not
but
take money out.
yeah, but in the point is that in a pyramid scheme, you can expect early people to be trying to get out. Whereas I'm saying with
Smart
Bitcoin,
people, yeah.
I'm saying with Bitcoin, there is not a reason to expect early people to get out. See, so it is like a pyramid scheme, except that I think with Bitcoin, there isn't a reason to expect early people to get out.
Well, for example, right now, you have to guess whether there will be a moment in the future when the price will be higher than 6,500, or whether it will be downhill from here, or maybe it will stay forever at 6,500. In the second case, it is, I mean, the smart move is to get out. If you believe that the price will go up, the smart move is to invest now, to put
Yeah,
more money into it now, and get out when you think that you got to the all-time high.
right. So yeah, so that's what I think that the gambling the thought process consists of. It is about thinking about the Bitcoin community and how it is going to change over time. See? So, but what I'm saying is I think that there is not a reason to think that the early investors in Bitcoin will get out. I think that what I am expecting is that more people will just keep getting in until there's nobody left using dollars.
I don't think that would ever happen. First of all, that's point one, right?
Wait.
But
Why do you think that the early investors in Bitcoin will get out?
I think many of them may have gone out. We don't know, right? I mean, Fortress, the Fortress Group invested heavily in Bitcoin in 2012. Then Bitcoin was their only red line in their statement in 2013, and so they sold their Bitcoins to Pantera, I think, in exchange for share equity of Pantera, which makes money no matter whether the price goes up or down. So then we don't know. I mean, how many people, how many early investors cashed out. We know that
No, but I'm
Satoshi
not
didn't
saying
touch his million bitcoins, but maybe he destroyed completely everything that he had.
but what I'm saying is I'm not saying what do you think old investors have done. I'm saying why do you think old investors have a reason to get out? What do you think the reason is that you would expect them to get out?
Well, if they think that the price will not go higher than 6,500, that's the time to get out.
Yeah, but why would they think that?
Well, I mean, why why do you think that 99.9% of the people in the world don't invest in Bitcoin? Because they don't believe that it will go on forever.
Well, yeah, but eventually they will believe that it'll go on forever, right? Because
That you believe that they will believe. They don't believe that they will believe.
Okay, but see, you're saying that you think the price is definitely going to go down because Bitcoin is like a pyramid scheme.
The
So I'm
expected
saying,
return, I mean, the expected return from investing in Bitcoin is negative.
well,
If you invest $1,000 in Bitcoin, you are not going to get $1,000 out. Maybe you will get if you are lucky, but only at the expense of some other investor who lost everything, lost more than the average because of those $10 million that go out of the game and no money coming into the game.
well, I mean, but there is money coming into the game, right?
Which
So,
investors'
and
money.
yeah, so if the Bitcoin world as a whole gets bigger, then everybody who was in before that happens benefits from that.
That's the reasoning of pyramid schemes
Right,
or
but what I'm
Ponzi
saying,
schemes.
okay, but the difference is in a pyramid scheme, old investors have a reason to get out. So, what is the reason that an old investor in Bitcoin will get out?
Well, the same thing. If he thinks that the this is the that it will be downhill from here,
Yeah, but why does he think
stagnant.
that? What I'm saying, old investors don't
Well,
have a reason to think that. Why does he
because
think that?
there are many other altcoins that I mean, are less bad than Bitcoin because there is Bitcoin is not getting any traction in merchants because there is sooner or later the governments will realize that Bitcoin is a payment processing system for criminals that doesn't comply with the AMC, with AML and KYC.
Well, why do you think altcoins
So
are less bad?
not all altcoins, but I mean, say Ethereum has those smart contracts, has a faster block size. Um, so
Why do you think that
compared
makes it? Why
with,
is that better?
well, it's not worse, at least, right? It has some more features.
But
Why is that?
okay,
Why
but see,
you
I
can
think
say,
that the
no, those features
reason,
are worth zero, but they are certainly, it is reasonable to think that they have worth something.
yeah,
Right?
but I
Fast,
mean, I think that the value of currencies in general has to do with the people who are holding the currencies. And it
No,
has less to do with the features of the currency.
no. What keeps the dollar stable is the Federal Reserve Bank. It monitors the value of the dollar on the cost, the purchasing power of the dollar, and adjusts the supply uh, up or down to keep that purchasing value fixed, except for 2% inflation per year, which is the target inflation.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay.
That's
How does the Federal Reserve reduce the supply of dollars?
It forces banks to deposit more money into the Federal Reserve Bank,
So
so
and
they can lend less money.
then the money is
Yeah,
gone.
because the money that banks lend to the economy to others is money that's circulating around, right? So if the Federal Reserve Bank takes that money and puts it into its coffers, that money goes out of circulation, and that makes the dollar go up, the value of the dollar go up, because there are fewer dollars in circulation. People need still to pay things with dollars.
How does it force banks to send money to the Federal Reserve?
It says every bank must send 20% of its reserves to the bank. That's the power of the central bank. It has power to do that. It has power to set the interest rate that it charges to lend money to banks when the banks need to borrow money from it. That's the prime rate, and that makes money more expensive to borrow from the central bank, and therefore there is less money going around because the banks will borrow less, and therefore people have less money to lend to people. I mean, currencies that collapse, like, I don't know, the Venezuelan bolivar or the mark in Germany during the wars or between the wars, or I don't know, whatever. They collapse because the government either is corrupt, and instead of having the central bank try to do its best to keep the value of the currency fixed, uses the central bank to generate money to pay for its expenses. So the central bank starts creating more money, printing, in quotes, more money, just so that the government can pay salaries that doesn't have money from taxes. It is a stupid way of taxing. It's a tax on holding dollar money, or because the economy collapses and the central bank doesn't have resources sufficient to keep the value of the currency stable.
Okay, well, if there was a currency that was going to collapse, a national currency, wouldn't you expect people to get into Bitcoin as in anticipation of it?
No, I think we have seen that people go to dollars or other stable currencies that are more promising to
Well,
be stable in the future.
yeah, but remember, we're gambling, so it's about predicting the future. It's not about looking at what people have done in the past, right?
Yeah, but most people are not gamblers. Like, they want something that's not promising to make them rich, but also not promising to make it not
Well, but
likely to make them poor.
if we're in a circumstance where the people who learn how to be gamblers are better off, you can expect that in the future more people are going to be gamblers, right?
No, I don't. I mean, you cannot have a society where a large fraction of the people are gambling.
Why not? I think
Because
that would be a great society.
because gamblers don't don't make the society richer.
Well, you know what
They
gamblers
just
do is
take
they take
money.
risks, right? So
They
that's
just
important.
take money from one another. So
But gamblers have to correctly predict the future, and that
no,
is the
I mean,
most
like, say,
that is the most difficult job there is.
yeah, but they have to predict the future based on meaningful data. So, for example, some people are gambling that Tesla's stock will be worth that much in the future. Why do they gamble that? Well, they look into the company, they hear Elon Musk talking his garbage or whatever, and they decide, well, this guy is probably going to pull the company through, is going to, sales are going to increase, profit is going to go up, then maybe I think that I can pay $100 and I have an expectation that in 5 years I will get 150 back.
Okay,
Something like
well, so anyway, we've been talking for an hour, so I think that is long enough. But I want to thank you for coming on my show.
Let me just say one thing.
Sure.
Look at what happened to Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Core Bitcoin had a lot of problems that prevented it from being a successful currency, and then the core group, the core developers, put another problem on top of it, which is the limited block size that created congestion and everything. And Bitcoin Cash just removed that, eventually removed that problem, right? So Bitcoin, objectively, there is no question that Bitcoin Cash is better than Bitcoin. This is less bad, okay? But nevertheless, I mean, people insist in investing in Bitcoin rather than in Bitcoin Cash. Why? That I think only shows
I'm not telling you
investors are not
that.
rational.
No, look at that's privileged information. That's what if I figure that out, then that benefits me. I'm not just going to tell you.
No, I mean, but I mean, I don't think there is any secret there that justifies why Bitcoin and not Bitcoin Cash, because everything that Bitcoin does, Bitcoin Cash can do too. Any future application that can use Bitcoin can use Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin Cash is better. There is no question about that.
Oh, that's a really good point. Maybe people should predict that eventually Bitcoin Cash will win.
Yeah, but they are not. I mean, it's been almost more than a year already, and I mean.
Well, Bitcoin is a very slow-moving poker game. It is a worldwide poker game, so it reacts quickly, but not that quickly.
Okay. Anyway, well, thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you, and good discussion, and hope you enjoyed.
Okay. Same to you. Thank you. Bye.